Hello, film fans. Welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast. My name is Martin Harries, your host, and I'm joined by the film encyclopedia man, Boaz Dix. We are a couple of filmmakers on occasion, but mainly can't stop yapping about movies. On this podcast, every episode we pick a topic from a film that's coming out at the cinema or on VOD. Myself and Boaz pick our favourite film from that topic, or team up against a guest and battle it out to decide which film will become the greatest film of all time. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. Please enjoy part 2. Hello, welcome to part 2 of the podcast, talking animated films. And we have some responses from our Car Films episode. The B Critics podcast say Cars Easy.
Do people watch our stuff? You're not making these quotes up? Wow, that's great. Nice.
The Movie Boners say The Transporter was cool before Drive. And then Anton Kinnerlove, a regular responder, says Fast and Furious 8. I think your response last time was better with trilogies, 3 calls when you said I meant 3.
Yeah.
I mean, do you guys have a car film choice?
I was trying to think of that one from the 1970s that's like,
Vanishing Point? Bullet?
Bullet. That's the one I was
thinking. Right, yeah.
Yeah, I thought you meant Bullet. I also had the same thing that flashed through my head. You mean Bullet with Steve McQueen? I don't know.
But there's a lot of great car action in Ronin. Have you guys ever seen Ronin?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's really great. Robert De Niro.
Yeah. Oliver Paris.
Jean Reno.
I just watched that movie with my dad, and unfortunately my biggest takeaway was that young woman would not be attracted to Robert De Niro. I was so distracted by
that. So our choice then for animated films, Boaz, is... Oh, no, it's your choice, sorry.
Yeah.
It would be like our choice.
It would be our choice, but, you
if we ever go first.
It should have been. The perfect world.
World of Horror. What is your choice for animated films?
We chose Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which came out in 2018.
Nice. Were there any other films in contention for you guys, or was it always this one?
I don't know. I think I just wanted to watch this one again.
We've already done Perfect Blue on the podcast, and we just did Mad God and Grave of the Fireflies.
Oh, okay. Mad God, how's that?
You'll have to listen to the podcast to get our unadulterated views on that one.
Not my fave.
Cool.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah, short version is we were both not huge fans of it.
I think he'd been trying to make that for 40 years or some shit like that. He'd been trying to make it for a long, long time.
That was
it looks weird.
The main takeaway was man, that's pretty impressive. I wish I liked it.
That's interesting. I'll check that out.
So what happens in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Mech?
All right, here's my brief synopsis. Spider-Man Into the
I'm timing you.
Yeah, please.
I was actually timed on a podcast I went in.
Wow.
Yeah, that was crazy. I was given...
What, choose film, was it?
Yeah, I think it was.
I haven't asked you about that yet.
Yeah. I think he gave me less than a minute, and he was like, you had a stopwatch. And I think he said I went 5 seconds over or something. And I was like, what the hell?
Oh, dear.
Never had so much stress ever. Yeah. So we're giving you 30 seconds, Mac. Go. Starting now.
All right. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is a story about a normal young boy named Miles Morales living in Brooklyn, New York. He lives with his slightly overbearing father, a police officer, and his mother, a nurse. He's recently started at a private prep school after winning a lottery and struggles to feel comfortable at a place that feels elitist compared to his public school. The place he feels most comfortable is with his uncle Aaron and spends time with him against his father's wishes. While doing graffiti with his uncle, he's bit by a radioactive spider, a la Spider-Man. He discovers a collider built by Kingpin, who is hoping to bring back his dead wife and son, spots the real Spider-Man who attempts to destroy the collider, but is unfortunately killed by Kingpin. But before he dies, he tells Miles it's his job to stop the collider or else the world will be destroyed. he struggles with this newfound responsibility and newfound powers, and then meets Peter B. Parker, a Spider-Man from a completely different universe, and then meets a bunch of other Spider people. They all strive to stop the Collider and get the other characters back to their respective universes.
Nice. Very concise. I do love it, Mac.
Thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful.
So, Mac, what's your initial reactions to this one when you first saw it?
Astonishment, wow, tears, and I do like superheroes. I would say Spider-Man is definitely one of my faves. I think he's so, I don't know, he's of the people,
Relatable.
you know?
Yeah. I would say
And-
he's like really
yeah.
relatable. Like when I was even younger, you know, he's a kid like me, goes to school, and then when you even get older, it's like he's poor, you know, nothing goes his way. And you're like, yeah.
And the vibe of anyone can wear the mask, I just think is so special. So yeah, I mean, and it's so creative, like we were talking about earlier. I just felt like it had been a while since I had seen something that really felt like they went out on a limb, you know. I don't feel like they played it safe with it, but it really paid off. And I don't know, I loved it.
Yeah.
Christina, initial reactions?
Yeah, same. I really liked the animation style immediately, the way it looked like a comic book. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it was just like something I had never seen before, and all the hype around it at the time was real. And I'm just really glad that I got to see it in the theater.
Quinn?
Yeah, it blew my mind, and I think that it was just one of those. It's just a film that it feels very, like you said, Spider-Man is a more relatable superhero, and the idea that there are, you know, all of these different versions of Spider people operating in multi-universes, like that is so appealing to me more than anything. But I loved the character of Miles as well. Like I thought it was a refreshing take, and even the other versions of Spider-Man felt very refreshing and really funny. But it was also, you know, it's a tough movie too, and in certain aspects there is a lot of trauma and there's some violence, and with every superhero movie you get that. But yeah, it's beautiful.
So the super fan of Spider-Man generally, Boaz, what did you make of this one initially?
Yeah, no, I mean, initially, and even on a rewatch, it's like watching it fresh again, you know, even though I've watched it.
Yeah.
So much happens in it. So many plot points, so many jokes. It's just packed with good stuff that I think you can watch it a couple of times and still be wowed. But yeah, I mean, initially, like, I think this was coming at a moment where there was a ton of stuff to do with Spider-Man anyway. So he was in one of the Avengers movies. There was a video game that dropped as well. So I was really big into Spider-Man that year. And I think this was probably kind of on the bottom of my list. Even though, you know, I like animation, it was like the first animated movie that Sony has done for, you know, Spider-Man. And like superhero films don't really do animated movies all that much. So, you know, Marvel doesn't. So, and, you know, and you've got all these live action Spider-Man movies and a video game and stuff. So it was kind of at the bottom of my list. The focus is also not on Peter Parker as Spider-Man. It's some other kid. So I'm like, well, that's not really my Spider-Man. And then, you know, the animation did look really cool. I think in the first couple of trailers, the choppiness of like the motion, I wasn't sure about that. So it kind of it does start to feel very natural after like 10 minutes. You can sort of notice it for a few minutes, and then you just kind of forget about it, and it kind of works. But when I actually watched it, it was like by far probably my favorite. Not maybe even just superhero film, but it's one of my favorite movies. And definitely my favorite Spider-Man movie. Like I thought before this, like, you know, Spider-Man 2 is like my magnum opus Spider-Man film and superhero film. And I was like,
is it though?
Man, I do love it. Like, you know, I think what you're going to say, oh, is it though? I thought it was a really great film when it came out. It's definitely one of my favorite Spider-Man films, or probably my favorite.
But I mean, when Tobey Maguire is talking to Kirsten Dunst, sometimes I just want to bury myself. I'm like, please, no.
Yeah, I don't tend to remember Kirsten Dunst too much, but you know, like the general film, you know, the Spider-Man stuff is really great. But anyway, so I was just very surprised that not only do I think it's much better than all the live action films, and not only is, you know, Peter Parker not the Spider-Man that it's focusing on, but I think it's like the best depiction of a main Spider-Man, and even like the side character Peter Parker is still like one of my favorite Peter Parkers. I'm like, he's not even the focus, and even that Peter Parker I think is amazing, and the story's so good, it's so funny, the script is so tight, and there's lots of emotion and so much color and just like a huge wow factor, and the choreography's great. Just so much is good about this film, and it blew my mind. I thought it was going to be probably good. I have no idea how good it was going to be. So it's always stuck with me.
We could have some crazy scores here, people. No, I really love this as well. I mean, I would say as well, this is probably my favorite Spider-Man film.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
I think it is the best one.
Yeah.
A lot of people say No Way Home is the best one, but I'm like, there are characters in there that just don't need to be there.
I think that's more the nostalgic fact. I like No Way Home, but I think it's the fact that it gets all the trilogies up. But I mean, if you just look at it objectively, both of them as a film, and that's crazy as well, because Into the Spider-Verse, it has none of that baggage of the other films. It's not like a conclusion to to like 3 different series put together. It's nothing like that. It's one self-contained film, but it's like so amazing and so epic. You're like, it's just crazy how good this is.
So directing then, the first couple of action scenes are just superb, where like Peter Parker's Spider-Man is fighting a massive Green Goblin. I found there was just a brilliant balance of fluid camera and animation with sharp action, where you really have to like pay attention. And I love the little textual accents that pop up saying or whatever. I mean, it's so quick you can hardly read it, but it's really quick and fast, and the lines that are in like multiple colors, which are a completely different color from the background in the scene. When a character is flying through the air in like anime style, you know, I liked how they changed it up when the Prowler chases Miles, and there's a moment where the Prowler opens up his claws on one of his hands, and the background changes to like a blocky purple and green in a star shape to kind of accent it. And the same happens when Miles jumps the tracks and the scene flashes all orange and yellow.
Yeah, that was cool.
Accenting the train's headlights. You know, I loved all that. And I even didn't mind the split screen where the Prowler gets on his bike. I don't like that in films, but I didn't mind it here. It was acceptable to me. And I thought the designs of the villains was really interesting. Like Kingpin is massive. Yeah. I loved it how in some shots his whole body just fills the screen. And I love the gender swap of Dr. Ock. You didn't see that coming at all.
Yeah, I think that is one of my favorite villain reveals ever. Like, that blew my mind. Okay. I thought it's so good.
And she's not even a major focus in the action that follows. Like, the directors show a massive confidence in the film that they keep the action focus on Miles still escaping while Peter B. Parker gets beat up by Dr. Ock through the windows. And you have the odd shot that's focused on that fight, but it's mainly on Miles. So, yeah, you have this massive reveal, yet the focus is still on Miles. I thought that was really kind of genius, really. And it doesn't feel like disappointing that you're not going to see what she can do, even though you'd get little glimpses here and there. So I thought it was really confidently done. I mean, what else do we think about the action scenes and how they're portrayed in this film?
I enjoyed seeing everybody's different style of fighting. I mean, the ending scene where everybody's going all at it, it just feels so triumphant. And so like you said, like there's so much happening, but I feel like it's all so tight. And so I feel like it's less of so much happening in a confusing way and more like you can watch this over and over again and see a bunch of different things.
Yeah, focus on that character and you're like, oh man, that's cool. And then, you know, just fully choreographed thing there as well. You can focus on something else. Yeah, I love what was it, the last like fight that they have with Dr. Octopus, all three of them going at her. I bloody love that. I think it's so good. Yeah, it's just like I just can't even explain it. It's just so much goes on.
Please do, it's a podcast.
It's just incredible. They're just being thrown through stuff, and I like how they team up and spin each other and like hit her, and then oh man, it was really great. And they do that double uppercut and just all that stuff. And then I love that whole fight scene. And like, the background is all like it's a Jackson Pollock painting, and it's like some crazy surreal shit going on in the background, just like literally just all the paint, all the paint is going on, and it's just making this incredible background. And she rushes them, and I thought it was such a funny thing as well, like the comedy. You're like, wow, that's a cool action scene, and then she comes at them, and they're like, okay, this is going to be tough, and you've already had a really great fight scene, and then she gets hit by a bus. I thought that was quite funny.
Yeah, the animators lost a lot of fingers that day. I guess with typing. In that scene, I just kind of love how they play with environments as well, not just with the colors. Like, you just have from every angle that you can think of, like with trains and buildings, the Brooklyn Bridge, all kind of goes all over the place.
Yeah.
Quinn, what other like action scenes do you love in this? What about the style that appeals to you in this film?
Yeah, in terms of style, I think this time around I was really struck by the composition, because of course for any sort of superhero film you have to have the sort of chaotic composition, I think, with intersecting lines and stuff, but because it's animation, what they're doing with like the frames and everything, I think just indicates so much chaos. I think it's like very seamlessly done in this film. Like, I would say it's over the top, but not in a bad way, like in a great way, in a way that I think really speaks a very clear message to the audience. So, and the colors struck me this time too, and just the pop dialogue boxes and stuff like that is just a beautiful, reminiscent callback. But the composition again is what struck me this time, and I also enjoyed seeing like different angles too, which I don't typically pay attention to so much in animated films, but you could see these beautiful, cinematic connections to things that characters were feeling, or, especially in action sequences before the action took place, like these, indications of power, loss of power through angles. And I loved that this time.
I really also like, because in the, most of the first couple of action scenes, like, Miles, you do get the sense, because of how like chaotic and like multifaceted, there's so much stuff going on, and how fast paced the quote unquote camera work is, and the cutting and everything like that. You're like, wow, this is a full on fight. This is pretty gritty. And I love these early fight scenes, because when Miles is just trying to escape, he's just trying to survive, and you're like, dude, this is way too much for you. This is, I think one of the best fight scenes with that is where all of them are fighting in like Aunt May's living room, and it's like not a lot of space, but they're smashing through walls upstairs and shit like that. And you're like, there's so much going on in such a small space. And they're trying to do like physical comedy as well, where he's like glued to the cushions and just so much going on. And he's trying to run away, and you're like, get the fuck out of there, man. This is like way too much for you.
I think that is a great scene, but I think it's my least favorite action scene. I think probably it's just because, all the action is happening all at the same time, and it's so fast with loads of characters in a small space.
Yeah, it's pretty claustrophobic as well. Yeah.
So it was difficult to know where to look at times.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it just adds to this rewatch value that, you can come back to that scene, especially, and find new things. But when it's just Miles versus the Prowler, that was great, simply because it was just focused on two characters. So I think that was the only scene for me where it kind of just pushes that line of going a bit too crazy for me. I mean,
well, it's a bit too messy for you.
Yeah. Anyone agree with that, or
Yeah, I do.
or it's fine?
I think so. Yeah.
Christina?
Yeah, and I think they bring in humor with Aunt May, like looking at her like vase or like her chair, you know.
Yeah, everything getting smashed. I thought that was quite funny. Yeah.
Maybe to kind of take away from that, but I just found it. I don't know. It was just too unbelievable that all these people could fit into this small space. Yeah, so little, and I know you have to suspend your disbelief, but I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough.
I don't like that section as much. It's just not my favorite.
It's hard to take it all in. You know, like you said, it becomes worthy of watching that scene over and over again, I think, because you cannot catch everything that's happening. And so for me, things like that overwhelm me a little bit. So maybe it's like the combination of the crowded sort of claustrophobic space plus so much happening, plus these new characters, you know, just coming together, and it's a lot. There's a lot going on. It's hard to take it all in.
And the thing I like least about that scene is like it feels like the enemies that come in, there's no like oomph to them, because I'm just like, okay, there's this guy, then there's this guy, and whereas like the Prowler and Kingpin, you're like, whoa, like I don't know, they're so more. It's not even that maybe they're more interesting. It's just that we get more time with them. So I feel like I know what's going on.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like those other enemies are kind of like wallpaper.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
The Scorpion comes in, you're like, where the hell does Scorpion come from?
He's so like, how did he fit through the door?
I think they're probably like three pretty developed villains. So, you know, Kingpin and Dr. Octopus, I really like, and Prowler as well.
That's what's great about that last action scene with all the colors and the craziness with the collider, is that it all looks very crazy, but with the direction it's not. It does feel a lot more focused. You know exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
And certainly a highlight for me in that scene was when you have two animated styles clashing together of the 2D Spider Pig and the more pronounced 3D Scorpion animation fighting against each other. And it weirdly doesn't look out of place. It kind of works, you know, for me.
Yeah, that was cool.
I think that was a real achievement there.
I like it anytime there's like swinging. Like my favorite is swinging through the birch trees at the lab.
Yeah, that was cool. When
Peter B. Parker is like sort of tutoring Miles, and then there's a switch. But that's whenever they're swinging in this film, I really really like it.
I think that sort of like montage is when they play St. Elmo's Fire for like 25 seconds or something, and then it never comes back. I don't know. Just random.
Mac, do you have a favorite shot or scene?
I think that scene, obviously all of it's great, but that scene towards the beginning where he's doing graffiti with Uncle Aaron, I thought that was really so beautiful. Like, and not just seeing them interact, but like the actual graffiti as well, like seeing the process and whatnot, and knowing that that's how Miles is doing that essay on like his, what was the exact?
Great Expectations, I think he has to do.
Yeah, exactly.
But he writes no expectations.
And I don't know, I felt like that set a really good tone for how that kid is feeling and why he's so attracted to hanging out with Uncle Aaron, who is letting this creativity and rebelliousness, you know.
Yeah.
And it's helping Miles genuinely.
I mean, I do like that design where, you know, he's got like expectations graffitied on, and it's just kind of the silhouette of Miles in the middle there. And I kind of really like the how he gets bit by the spider as well. Yeah, we've seen that twice before, but like you get some really cool angles there with the spider. And I mean, the spider looks kind of really cool and funky anyway, but like when the spider bites his wrist, like it goes really dramatic and you get these real like comic book panels and split screen.
and it's like going through his bloodstream, and then like his red blood cells mutating and everything. It's all very dramatic. And then I like that balancing that with the comedy of just like zooms out. And it's like, just like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah. It's really underplayed and non-dramatic, completely not dramatic at all, which I quite liked.
Yeah.
But it's that thing of like, I mean, the whole film is kind of a comic book anyway, but you kind of go even further in that little bit where you just get actual panels on the screen, which is great. Cool. Christina, favorite shot or scene? Is it the swinging?
I love all the swinging sections, but I mean, I don't want to steal the iconic shot, but I mean, when he does the leap of faith and he's upside down, when I saw that the first time, I was like, oh, perfection. I mean, it's so great.
Yeah. Chef's kiss.
I feel like in that moment, though, he still hasn't worked out the non-sticking bit because he brings some glass with it.
Yeah, that still does look incredible, though. Like the glass falling with it. That looks so good. And I love that whole sequence, and then the swinging that comes through that, and just everything, all that entire scene. I think is my favorite shot, my favorite scene.
Yeah,
and I think you're right. Probably him falling down in slow motion is probably my favorite shot.
Quinn?
I like the realization of the Prowler and that, you know, that death. It's just, you have to have that to be Spider-Man. So I think it was just really well done in this case, and a beautiful link to like any original Spider-Man, you know, tale or origin story, Uncle Ben, Uncle Benjamin, Uncle Aaron, you know.
Yeah, so I'm in danger if my nephew ever becomes Spider-Man.
I mean, my favorite scene is kind of a really stupid one, but I loved it. It's the scene where Peter B. Parker shows up and his web ends up being attached to Miles. And when the cops are chasing them, Miles fires a web from Peter to a train. And the physical comedy that they produce in that sequence is just amazing. How they get away with some of the gags is great, where Peter Parker is like unconscious through it, like being dragged through the street.
Oh, I like the on the police cars where it's like
he gets a snowman on his head, which definitely treads that line of being too ridiculous, but I think it's so good because of the choreography, directing, editing is so good, and that it gets away with it, even for being an animated film based on a very familiar character. The scene could easily feel too silly, but it doesn't for me. I think they get the balance just right there. I loved it.
I like I like a lot of the physical comedy, and I like every time they so you know where they do the flashbacks. I always like those where they're like they throw a comic book and then it flips open and then they're like, I'll tell you my story, and then they do that sort of stuff. I love that.
That
whole
one was great.
You know, they're great. They're like, you know, 30-second recaps of like every character, and they're just so good. Like really funny montages.
Yeah, and it just feels like it can keep going on and on and on, and you would be like happier the more it even happened. And it just, those are great.
Yeah. They're just done so well, and I like the shot actually at the end of Peter B. Parker's one where like he lands in New York, like face first, like he hits a bunch of billboards and stuff. And when he takes off his mask, he's like,
I'm blonde.
There's like he was, you know, Spider-Man. He was dead, but he was blonde and handsome. It was like looking in a mirror, and he takes off his mask, and he's all just bruised to fuck, you know. I thought that was really funny.
World of Horror directing score for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
I mean, I would say 10, 9, 10.
Yeah, me too.
Is there anything wrong with the direction? I'm actually okay with the 10.
Me too.
Nice.
Okay.
Wow. I think that's one of our firsts.
I would go very close to a 10 for me, Boaz.
Yeah, I'd go really, really close. Yeah.
It's just that one scene in the house where it gets a bit too crazy for me.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I would go like a 9.7.
Okay.
We can go down to 9.7. I think it's fair because 10 should be you have absolutely no notes, in my opinion.
Nothing. You can't change anything. Yeah.
Like no qualms. Yeah.
I'm sticking with my 10. I think that scene for me to take it all in, it's tough to take it all in, but it is so representative of what some sort of version of a multiverse would be, like chaotic mess going everywhere, flinging, in a small space. I just I don't know. I don't see fault in it. I just, for me, I'm like, I can't see everything because I'm old or something, but
just rewatch it like 100 times or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll do that because I'm willing to do this.
Yeah, and I do think that scene is a good way to depict how out of his depth like Miles is. I feel like that's the moment where they're like, oh, this kid can't handle this.
Yeah, you're like, this is way too much. Like, run.
9.8?
Right. Screenplay then. This film really takes some risks that no other Spider-Man film has done, which is they kill Spider-Man. Peter Parker from this world. Going into this film, you think, Miles Morales meets Spider-Man as a mentor figure, then he meets all the others from the multiverse, and you go from there. But to kill Spider-Man, one, it's so unexpected, and two, it makes Kingpin and the bad guys feel that much more powerful, So I thought that decision is really well paid off.
It's a really rough death scene as well, like where he's like, you never, get your family back and stuff like that, or it won't work, and you're going to destroy the world. And then Kingpin, you think he's like considering it or whatever, and then he just kills him, and you're like, whoa. And
the way he kills him too, like physically.
Yeah, and this is actually one of the things I really like about the writing in the film is they pay off a lot of scenes like later. And I really like that because then it makes it, when they do it the second time, it makes it hit like twice as hard because you've already, seen how it goes, So I like that towards the end when Miles gets, slammed in the exact same way. It's the exact same shot. It's done exactly in the same way where Kingpin hits him with all of his might. And you're like, holy shit. Like, because you've basically had that bookended. This is exactly how he killed the original Spider-Man. This is exactly what he did to Miles. And then you're like, oh, well, he's dead. And then he's able to like lift himself up, with his dad's, his dad believes in him. That just hit really hard. I was like, yes, get up, get the, kick his ass. And I love that they pay off so many scenes like that. Like Peter B. Parker, where he says to him he's not ready, and he like sweeps his leg and then holds him over, and then it's like, he can't do anything. And then he uses the same trick to make sure Peter goes home. And I just love how they do this rhyming with the script constantly. They'll do something and have it pay off a lot later, in a sort of poetic way. And I just think that's really tight, really good script writing. And it makes every time it happens later, like really satisfying. Like if you didn't have like the original Spider-Man die that way, then it's less impactful when Peter gets hit that way. You have no frame of reference. And when he sends Peter home and he beats him in combat using the same move, you're like, that's, it wouldn't have hit that hard if you didn't have. And I just love the script that how it does that. Just like it pays off like so many things.
I love how he defeats Kingpin and he says, do you know about the shoulder touch? Zap.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. That was a great payoff because you wouldn't have even seen, like when that scene happens when he's connecting with Aaron, and then this is the guy that kills Aaron, and you're like, he connects with Aaron because Aaron's teaching him how to get girls, and you're like, when is this ever going to show up? And it shows up once when he tries to do it with Gwen to disastrous results, but where it actually succeeds is in his fight with the villain. That's how he takes him out, and you're like, that is so good, just how that comes out of nowhere. Yeah.
But I think my favorite callback is It's a Leap of Faith from Peter Parker. He's been saying that to Miles, but just before Peter goes back to his world, Miles says that to Peter again to give his relationship with MJ another go. So I thought they were great.
Yeah, I love that because he's like, I'll screw it up again. Like, how do I know I won't screw it up again? It's like it's a leap of faith, and you're like, whoa.
Because you think that callback has already been fulfilled.
Yeah.
With the fact that Miles has done that massive jump and he's finally become the Spider-Man that he should become, you know.
Yeah.
But then he's comes back again for Peter B. Parker. I thought that was amazing.
Yeah,
amazingly done.
I love it with Kingpin too. Like we see how Kingpin lost his wife and child, and then, you know, and Peter Parker's like, hey, this isn't going to help. And then Kingpin, you know, obviously in a way loses them again. So it's like, even if he brought them back, he didn't change himself. So he would just lose them again.
They would still be horrified and disgusted at the person he is. And like, he hasn't he's an evil man. And if he just brings them back, he'd just lose them again. And I do love that in the fight with Miles in the train, because you've already seen the flashback of how it happened. And then in the train, like, there are other versions of them coming through, and they see him attacking Miles, and you're like, oh my, I just love the symmetry in that film. Because you're like, if you didn't have the flashback earlier, that wouldn't sting so much. It like really hits hard. And I just love how the script is put together, that so many impactful scenes hit twice as hard because like they have a rhyming component earlier in the film. It's like poetry, I think. It's written like poetry.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for your poetry on our episodes, Boaz.
It'll cost you £1,000 a line. You know, I'll get to you at some point.
That good?
Yeah, it's that good.
I mean, I loved it when like the other Peter Parker comes into the world and he says, "All right, people, let's do this one last time," like we briefly mentioned. And you don't just have a rerun like the start, but with like different jokes. You see beyond what we already know about Spider-Man. He got divorced, he got fat, learned about seahorses, and the saddest thing is that his Spider-Man themed restaurant failed.
Yeah.
But I noticed that this Spider-Man is from our world that we are familiar with. The world that this film is set in is the alternative universe.
Yeah, that's pretty trippy. Yeah.
Yes, this Spider-Man is blonde, but there are little things like Coca-Cola is spelt differently, cola soda.
The New York Police Department is the Police Department of New York.
I didn't notice that.
Well, yeah, they say PDNY.
Yeah, PDNY, yeah.
They have Red X, not FedEx.
Yeah.
And there's a poster of Shaun of the Dead that says "From Dusk Till Dawn."
Oh,
yeah.
That's a good one, Martin.
I feel like it's so clever that they introduce those things when this Peter Parker arrives, and somehow before we haven't noticed anything different. So I thought that was really clever and new.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked how they play with that with all the other Spider people with their origins. Not so much Gwen, though, when she says she entered the world like a week earlier. I thought that was a tad clunky for me. But other than that, I thought all that kind of theme that went through was really great.
Yeah. Well, I think my only problem with that is like, it's like, when was that established that this thing can also time travel as well? You know, this this multiverse thing, you know? Yeah, I do find that a bit strange. Like that because why did they all arrive at the same time except her? Like, why did they all arrive on that day and then she arrived a week earlier?
Yeah,
it's a bit random.
She had to have a good, cool haircut for Miles.
yeah, exactly.
And it did look cool.
I think it was a way to get her to meet Miles a lot earlier than all the other characters and stuff.
Maybe that'll be paid off in the new movie.
Yeah, they might explain it. You know, they might say there's like a purpose or something.
I wish she had more moments with Peter B. Parker, like, because that's what, you know, he's who she lost. And, you know, they did have a moment of her being like, you know, that's not your MJ. Believe me, I know. But I kind of wish they had a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that, because like in her retelling, you know, her Peter Parker had like died in her arms. I mean,
that's horrible.
Like that should be some serious trauma when she sees. But when they talk, they're always just like taking the piss out of each other. Do you know what I mean? And you're like, yeah, they do kind of skip over that. Like, you could have a whole subplot there, but maybe they're just like, we can't cram too much. You know, there's already a lot going on.
The runtime is like 2 hours.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I do agree, because a couple of times I did even forget that, you know, she had a Peter Parker, and that's who she lost, because it's not really addressed. But yeah, there is that one scene.
I think it's interesting with the emotional scenes in this film. Like, as you were touching on, Quinn, like the film is playing with the whole Uncle Ben death inspires Spider-Man's motivation thing with all the other spider people. And while you're watching the film, you're always thinking, who's the Uncle Ben in this story? And you know, and the Aunt May for Miles. And his father, you know, is his father going to die, or is his Uncle Aaron going to die? And when Miles discovers that the Prowler is his Uncle Aaron, and then soon after Uncle Aaron gets killed by the Kingpin, I wasn't particularly moved by it personally. Maybe it's because of the close proximity of finding out that he's the Prowler, and then before you know it, he's dead. But I think it's more like hurtful for Miles' father. But here, his father, you know, is at the door and doesn't want to lose Miles, like how he lost contact with his brother who ends up dying. So here his father is the Aunt May character in the other films, but here it feels more unique and frankly better because both characters are struggling to connect with each other. You know, his father hates Spider-Man and he wants Miles to be a respectful kid and to fulfill his academic potential, where Miles just wants to be a fun kid and fit in. So I thought that dynamic was really well done, and it really is the beating heart of this film. And you know, we go on about like how good the visuals are and how amazing this style is and the directing, but without that core storytelling, which I think is so strong, like the film would really fall apart. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I think also a really great story element is just kind of this constant thing that's drummed in that, you know, Miles is not ready for this. Like, he wants to be the one to do it because he made a promise, or Spider-Man made him promise. But like, even when, you know, Spider-Man makes him make that promise, it's like, take that thing and put it up there. And he even like climbs the rubble. It's just like, holy shit, you know, that is way beyond me.
Yeah, smaller building.
Yeah, and then immediately gets involved in a fight with the Prowler and gets his ass handed to him. And just everything in the film, like he's not strong enough. He doesn't have any control of his powers. Like, he keeps getting his ass kicked. He needs to get saved and everything like that. And I like that when his uncle dies, he's really motivated. Like, I've got to be the one to do this. And then that's what makes it hit even harder, where they're like, no, you're not ready. And it does feel like this really defeated moment where you're like, they leave him tied up there. You know, his uncle's dead. His dad hates Spider-Man. His dad's lost his brother. His dad's come to like connect with him, and they're not connecting. And you just got all of this stuff. And then Peter B. Parker, he's going to sacrifice his life. So you're like, that's another death on his conscience. There's so much going on. It's like the darkest moment. And then he gets that speech, and just, I love at the end of that speech, and then he can like work his powers. That's just always such a really good moment for me. Like, his dad gives him that, you know, heartfelt speech, like, whatever you do, you know, you'll make us proud and all that stuff. You got the great music and stuff. And I just love how he just taps into that, breaks the webbing, and then just like, he becomes like the better version of himself, and is like better than all the Spider-Man, and he's able to do it. And yeah, that just hits really hard.
Yeah, I think you're so right, Boaz and Martin, about like the emotional connection between him and the dad. I think it is more powerful maybe than him and Uncle Aaron as well, because it's not as organic as his relationship is with Uncle Aaron. You know, they share a bond.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think that's completely right. I love the scene where his father's talking beyond the door. And another thing about this, just kind of going along with all of this, I enjoy that they don't waste much time on there being any sort of friction between any of the Spider-Mans. Like, even Peter Parker in the beginning is like, oh, I'm going to teach you all of these things. I can do this. I can teach you this. You'll be good. And then, you know, after he dies, and then Peter B. Parker, there's a little bit of like trepidation and stuff. But then when the other Spider-Mans come, you know, they're like, he's not doing this. He's not been doing this. He maybe can't do this. But no one is like stopping him. And I think that sometimes a lot of superhero movies spend too much time on that sort of trope. That's like the resistance to beat up.
Yeah, actually, I think that's a good point. Like, in most films, like superhero films, or even most films, like, the hero resists the call to adventure. He's like, he gets the call to adventure and he resists for as much as possible. But here it's kind of, it's inversed. he gets the call to adventure immediately from the blonde Spider-Man, his Spider-Man, and he is going to do it, even though he's no training, he's not prepared, and everybody is trying to talk him out of it. Everybody's trying to stop him. All the other Spider-Men don't believe in him. They don't think he has enough training. They don't think he's right. And, just all of this pressure against him. So I think it's kind of the inverse of the call to adventure and the hero's journey. So I think it's kind of refreshing as an origin story, So I think that's what makes it unique and it sort of stand out, because it's like he's so strong as a character that he's willing to try, even though he just cannot do it. And you feel just so much of this pressure against him, where they're all like, "You can't do this," And then it's heartbreaking where they take that choice away from him when he's the most determined.
I mean, frankly, going from the point of view of the other Spider people, they don't need him in that point because they've got a Spider Pig with a mallet, so it's fine.
Yeah, they're good.
But I also like the idea that he has to be himself. He can't imitate other Spider people. He's got to do it in his own way in order to be successful. So
absolutely,
every time he tries to emulate somebody else, he fails. And so he just has to get it that he has unique talents, and that's what makes him the Spider-Man.
Yeah, he's got to do it his own way. Yeah, I think there's a great visual way of demonstrating it that they do. Like, he buys that Halloween costume of Spider-Man and he's wearing that through most of the film. So he's trying to be, Spider-Man. He's trying to be Peter B. Parker. He's trying to be any of the Spider-Men while he's dressed as a Spider-Man. But it's only at the end he finally gets his own costume. He makes it himself. He does it his own way. And I love that thing where what was it? He's fighting Dr. Octopus and what was it? And he jumps. I think he jumps to turn off the collider or something. Peter B. Parker is something did I teach him that? And she's like, no. She's like, I didn't teach him that. You definitely didn't teach him that. Yeah. I thought that was really good. Yeah.
Funny lines then, people. Norman, listen to me. I can't let you open a portal to another dimension. Brooklyn is not zoned for that.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah.
I thought that was a very clever, train joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a Banksy.
That one was
Banksy.
Yeah, that was funny. Yeah.
I'm mildly obsessed with Spider-Man Noir.
Yes. Oh my god.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah, I love where they're saying stuff he should be able to do as Spider-Man, and they're like, "Are you able to get knocked up and pick yourself up?" And then Spider-Noir is like, "Do you ever just burn a match to see how it hurts your fingers?" And then Spider Pig is like, "Can you float on a trail of apple pie smell or something?" And I just like how more ridiculous it gets. So, I thought that was really funny.
He says, "Wherever I go, the wind follows, and the wind smells like rain."
That's what I was going to say. That's what I looked up. Also, adore Penny Parker. Oh my gosh, so cute.
So cute.
Yeah, she was great. She was great.
I love it when Spider-Man Noir leaves and he's like, "I'll be keeping this," like the Rubik's Cube.
Rubik's Cube. I don't know how to do it yet, but.
Do you see the end credits where they've got all the it's a really trippy thing where they got all the characters and different poses, and it's such a trippy thing, but where they have in the credits Spider-Man Noir, where he's solved the Rubik's Cube and all the other Noir people are basically praying at him and stuff like that. I thought that was really funny.
They're counting on me, probably not you specifically. I think it's a metaphor.
Yeah, that was good. That was really good. I also love when Peter B. Parker is trying to talk to MJ, but it's not his MJ. And I like how she's like, you didn't we didn't get any bread, and he's like, "I'm so sorry, I wasn't there for you.
Yeah.
I will get you the bread," and stuff like that. I'll give you all the bread.
I know I could do better if I could just have another chance to give you the bread that you deserve.
Yeah, that was so good. Yeah. Oh, I like that bit where what was it? they're just outside Kingpin's, hacienda, and he's throwing a party for Spider-Man's death, and all the waiters are dressed as Spider-Man, and what was it? Gwen says like the pig, and Spider-Ham is like, hey,
I'm right here.
He's offended. Yeah, I'm right here. Yeah.
That was a great impression.
Thank you.
That was nice work, Martin.
It's like he was here.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, I think it's his only good impression.
I'm always insulted with my impressions from Boaz.
I know.
Yeah,
they're mostly terrible. One good one.
Thank you, man. Thank you. You got any Spider-Man tips you can tell me now? Disinfect the mask. You're going to use baby powder in the suit. Heavy on the joints. You don't want any chafing, right?
Yeah. And he's like, that's basically it. Yeah.
One simple one that I really love is, what would I do if I were me?
Yeah. That was good. Yeah, I like when where they're exiting the building and it's just a bunch of regular scientists, and he's like, "Can you go invisible?" He's like, "No." Well, I'm taking a bagel, and then he takes the bagel, and all the scientists have like laser guns, and they're like, "Stop! He took a bagel."
Yeah, I got that one,
Yeah, I thought that was great.
Or Doc Ock when she says, "My friends call me Liv, my enemies call me Dr. Octopus," or something like that.
Yeah, that was great. I love that.
Is that your favorite, Mac?
Sure. No, I can't think of what my favorite is.
Christina, you got a favorite?
Mine's actually not funny. Mine is when the dad comes and is talking through the door, and he says, and this would also go into the acting, but he goes, "Something happened," and he just like leaves it there because he's emotional. But I thought that was great writing. Just something happened, and Miles does know what it is, but the dad doesn't know that he knows.
Yeah.
And he wants to wait to tell him face to face.
Yeah, it's a wonderful moment.
Another bit I really like, because it's emotional and hilarious at the same time, where at the end he talks to his dad as Spider-Man. And I like that, we won't see eye to eye, Spider-Man, but, I don't approve of your methods, but I'll work alongside you. And he's like, I appreciate your bravery tonight. And he's like, thank you. And he's like, I love you. And then leaves, and he's like, what?
What?
Yeah.
Is that your favorite?
Yeah, that might be my favorite. Yeah, that's really funny. I like that.
Well, my favorite is the funniest line for me is near the beginning that's related to my favorite scene, where one of the cops says, "Looks like a child dressed like Spider-Man dragging a homeless corpse behind a train."
Yes, that one. That's my favorite too.
That was so funny.
Or maybe my favorite would be when Spider-Man's talking about how seahorses mate for life. Like, that's really funny.
That's so sweet. Yeah.
That is great, yeah. Screenplay score, Boaz?
Man, it's so good.
I'm thinking 9 still.
Like 9.5 or 9. Yeah, something 9.
Yeah, it's so strong.
Boaz, you don't usually go 9s. I'm so impressed.
Yeah, I just really like this film.
Takes a lot to get you to a 9.
Oh yeah, usually
9.3, 9.4.
Yeah, okay, 9.3.
I think generally it's amazing, but I think for me personally, where there are moments where it's supposed to be very emotional, but I'm not quite moved to where the film is wanting me to get moved to, if that makes sense. So,
okay, yeah, I kind of disagree with you wholeheartedly. Okay. Like I'm sort of on the film's.
I cried when Aaron died.
Page, yeah. I was getting, like, I don't cry, but I was getting kind of quite emotional. So
yeah, I didn't feel a lot there for me. So I guess this week I'm the soulless man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've switched roles. Yeah. Now I'm the blubbering mess, and you're the emotionless monster,
emotionless corpse. World of Horror. What are you going for screenplay?
9.7. I don't like the Gwen thing. I do think it doesn't make sense, but
yeah,
that's a problem.
Yeah, it's a missed opportunity.
It's clunky.
Yeah, but everything else I like.
It's very tight. I mean, it fits well, together, and I think the characters all make sense, and obviously there's a lot of really funny lines. I was going to say 9.5.
Yeah, I would say 9.5. The only qualm I have is like I want more. I want more of the I want more of the other spider people.
Well, you just have to wait till 2nd of June, so it's fine.
Yeah, just wait a week.
Yeah.
So what you saying, 9.6?
So you want to go 9 point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
I think this could come very close to the top of our list.
I think so.
Yeah.
Voice acting then. One part where I thought the voice work comes through is with the shoulder touch gag where Miles visits his Uncle Aaron. He tells Miles about like the shoulder thing and he says, hey, and tries it, and Uncle Aaron is like, no. It's hey. And Miles tries it again and it sounds all weird, and I kind of just like the varying performances there where he says hey. That was kind of funny to me, and it makes you like both of these characters a lot in that just very short space of time in that scene. I thought it was great.
It's a good it does a great job. They do a great job in that scene of just completely, it's a very vulnerable moment, to try and connect in that way and to teach someone how to do that and to have it be awkward. And I just love that. I love that scene too. I think it speaks volumes of who they are.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one great thing in the script and then the voice work is like in a very short scene, they can get like just the general feel, like you just get the relationship between him and Aaron, from a really short scene, and you're like, okay, I get their relationship, I get how close they are and stuff.
I feel like it also came through when they had all the different spider people. Like I felt like all of them were so distinct, and like Nick Cage did a great job, and John Mulaney, like I think they got the vibes really well. Yeah,
Nick Cage very much puts on more of a gruffier voice. It doesn't have to do too much with that, but he's brilliant.
Yeah. I really like the voice acting as well of Richard B. Parker, Peter B. Parker. I just like that guy and how he plays Spider-Man,
Jake Johnson.
Yeah, I just love his voice of Spider-Man. I think it's just really good. And like he's quite vulnerable and again like a slob and just like not very heroic, but still at the same time can crack wise like he always used to, and he's still got really good comic timing, but then can be quite like he has a heart as well. So I just think he plays it pretty well rounded. And and the scenes where he's like filled with regret, they're pretty good as well. So he does feel like a really well-rounded character, and I think the actor does a massively good job of that.
Even with like the bread gag in the restaurant from Jake Johnson, who plays Peter B. Parker, there's a lot of emotion coming through his voice, and yet he's vulnerable.
Yeah, it is.
It's very funny as well. So it's just a great balance of bringing the humor, but it's actually quite heartbreaking as well at the same time.
Yeah. So you've got to do it emotionally, but still hit the timing to make it funny. And I thought he did a pretty good job of that. And he does a good job in a load of scenes like that where he can make it heartfelt and funny or just really serious. And I thought he does a pretty good job.
And even with like Liv Schreiber as Kingpin, like
loved him.
He's very menacing and evil, and his voice, he puts a very gruff thing going on. But if there's a very brief moment when like Vanessa and his family are kind of like coming through on the train. You'll get that joke if you watch Daredevil. But there's a little bit of, there's a little something there that you can get hold of emotionally from that character, which is kind of really cool for the villain to have as well.
Yeah, like he's really panicky. Like, it's me. You remember me? And you're like, this is the same guy who's kind of like calm and collected and very sort of ominous.
I think Chris Pine is great as the original Peter Parker at the start.
Yeah, he was pretty cool. And he's got he's got a very brief time as Spider-Man, but his Spider-Man is pretty distinctive as well.
He's very quippy as we know him as, Spider-Man, and I just love that joke where they're going through how, what he's been doing as Spider-Man, and I also did this. But we don't talk about that though. And they does the Spider-Man 3 dance. That's the first joke where I'm like, yeah, I know what this film is going to be now. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Do you see the one as well where he was like, I got hit by a drone, and that comes back at the end as well, where Miles is, saying how good everything's going, and then he gets hit by a drone.
I like Brian Tyree Henry as the father. I think.
Yeah, he's really good.
He's just great. Like, there's like one section where Miles says, "Do you really hate Spider-Man?" And he's like, and he just like sort of, and it's just like conversational and real. And then he like turns to his wife and he's like, "You know how I feel about Spider-Man," and it seems so natural.
I love Catherine Hahn so much, and I'll watch like anything she does. So I, of course, I thought she was great in this. I don't think she was like stand out, but I loved hearing her rendition of Dr. Octopus for sure. She was great.
Is that your favorite performance, Quinn?
I think honestly, Miles, the actor, is
Shameik Moore.
Yeah, I think he's fantastic. So I would say him in second place. Honestly, I'm gonna have to like give to Nick Cage because I would never do that for Nick Cage. But I'm just like, I love his performance in this, like his Spider-Man noirs. It just makes me so happy. Like it just like tickles me.
He killed it.
But then I guess third I'll give to Catherine Hahn.
Christina, favorite voice?
Mine was Brian Tyree Henry.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I would say also Shameik Moore, but also Mahershala Ali as Uncle Aaron. I just thought like
I love his voice.
He was really good.
Very silky.
Yeah, definitely. Like he's so like just cool. He's just a cool uncle.
Yeah, he's so cool.
He's just so cool. But then like when they reveal that he's evil and he's like on the phone to Kingpin, I also like, his acting for that. He just sounds like just really menacing, but not like a completely different character. It's just like very focused, very much like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to kill this guy. And you're like, wow, that's crazy. I think he does a really good job.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jake Johnson as Peter B. Parker. I just thought he was hilarious, to be honest. Just for humor and heart level, he was amazing.
Yeah, I thought he was really funny. Yeah.
Voice acting score, Boaz. What should we go for? I'm not going to go crazy and like do a 9, I don't think, but so I always feel like with animation, like you're only using your voice. So I feel like we always come down a point for that.
Yeah, well, I think like I guess you can make the argument that most of it is being done for you in the animation department. They're sorting how the faces should look and stuff.
Well, I don't know.
I don't know about that.
Because you really have to be able to picture, it's like...
Yeah, I guess that's kind of true.
I think it makes it a harder job.
Yeah, I think it is a different job because many times you'll see like really good actors do voice acting and their voice acting is atrocious. And it is kind of...
Examples, please.
Examples? Oh my god! The only example I have is really crap and it's really niche.
All right.
But Peter Dinklage during
Infinity War,
there was a video game called it was a video game called Destiny, and his voice acting was pretty bad. Okay. Mainly, I can only think of video games because a lot of big name actors do video games based on movies or stuff like that. That's where I see most big name actors do voice acting. Tobey Maguire, he wasn't that great in like the Spider-Man games. But again, that's pretty niche. I'm getting really niche here of like, an actor in a video game that you probably played. But
So 8.7?
8.9.
8.8 then.
All right.
World of Horror, voice acting score?
I'm going to go 9.5 because Martin, like you said, they're only using their voice, but also they're only using their voice. Like, I mean, you gotta like, it's a different, you gotta touch people on a different level. And also, I mean, just in the realm of looking at animation and...
It also depends, because I don't know really much on the making of this. Were they all in the same room recording the dialogue? Because a lot of the times they record it separately. Yeah, where then you've got to factor that in. You're not looking and talking and acting with a person, so you've got to make that up in your head. So, I mean...
I was going to say 9, Mac. What do you think?
I think I'll say 9.3 because while I will still retain my previous thought of like, I wish we could move away from just big name actors. There aren't only big name actors in this cast.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I do feel like diversity wise, they did a way better job than Kubo.
Yeah.
And I do think the performances were like, I had to look everybody up because I was like, man, this person is so good.
Yeah, I think it's a hell of a diverse cast. There's white people, black people, Asians, women. There's so many main characters of many backgrounds.
Well, Zoe Kravitz plays MJ, so I feel like that's kind of cool, actually.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. I didn't even know that.
They're not really thinking about the color of the actor. They're just thinking about the voice with that character. And with all of the voices, really. Whereas you can't really say that too much with Kubo. So 9.3?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a lot of high scores. Let's add them up.
Yeah.
Spider-Verse wipes the floor with Kubo and the Two Strings with 56.5.
Wow.
Which I think is, I can confirm that is at the top of our list. Above The Thing and Dead Poets Society. That's going to be really, really tough to beat. Kubo got 48.1. That is quite a win. But I think fully deserved, frankly. I mean, I saw a list from Empire with the 50 greatest animated films, and this one was number 1. So that is a very big film magazine that I read a lot. So yeah,
and I think it's really unique in that respect because like Spider-Man is such a big character. Like they could have phoned it in, they could have half-assed it, and it would have still made bank. But they put like their whole ass into it. Yeah, it's great.
To put it mildly. Next episode, we are going back to one of our legend episodes, and we are going to be talking about the great Denzel Washington and having a look at his films, and hopefully have a guest from Check This Shit Out podcast with Tommy Nugent. World of Horror, you have been amazing as always. It's been fabulous having you guys on again. And Quinn, it's so lovely for you to come on and hear your thoughts about these films. It's been fantastic. Guys, this is your opportunity again to talk about your podcast. And where can we find you?
Mac, why don't you take it?
Oh, please, can you do it?
Yeah.
I'll do it. The World of Horror podcast can be heard on any streaming platform. World of Horror podcast starring Mom and Mac. I don't know if I did a good job. You can cut that.
It's perfect.
Trailer voice Quinn.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. It means the world of horror to me. No, it means a lot. It's so kind of you to ask me, and I'm appreciative, and I love hanging out with you guys.
This was really fun.
Thanks for having us.
So you're on social media, Instagram, Twitter, is that right?
Yeah, mostly on Instagram, World of Horror podcast.
Nice.
So it's time to say goodbye, people. It's goodbye from Christina. Goodbye.
Bye.
It's goodbye from Mac.
Goodbye.
It's goodbye from Quinn.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from our serpent man who loves a shoulder touch. Power sticks. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Okay, see ya.
And it's goodbye from me. I'm going to try and reopen a Spider-Man restaurant to get my food tonight. Bye-bye. Bye.
See you, man.
That's it for part 2. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. Check out part 1 if you haven't done so already. But don't stop there. Get involved and tell us what your favourite films are relating to the episodes. Send us a DM or comment on Instagram and TikTok at Film vs. Film Podcast, for Twitter at FVF_podcast. If you do, we'll give you a shout out on the next episode. If you're feeling really generous, you can buy us a one-off coffee at our Buy Me a Coffee account. Remember, please leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. Pod signing off.